God hates the world and all her people. You, everyone, face a fiery day for your proud sinning. It's too late to change his mind. You lived your vain life, storing up God's wrath for all eternity. Well, you knew God's law, but you disobeyed it all. Spent your life chasing your lusts and your lives, serving your idol fag beasts and bloody fags. Fires of hell are waiting there for you. God hates the world. You know he hates you and all her people, evil people. You, everyone, face a fiery day for your proud sinning. So just stop. It's too late to change his mind. You lived out your vain lives, storing up God's wrath for all eternity. Welcome to Extraordinary Stories Podcast. Hey, how are you? Are you well? Are you good? I am. Again, I'll ask that question. Are you good? I've said it before, but it's not just standard. How are you? Are you well? Are you good? I don't want that to become my boring catchphrase that's just my thing. I actually genuinely mean it. Are you well? Take a second. Take a moment in your life right now to stop and consider what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Okay? Now that the self-help part is over. I genuinely mean it. I genuinely want everyone to be okay. I want you to be okay. But I think it's nice to sometimes just check in with yourself and just actually ask yourself, are you actually okay at this moment in time? I hope you're okay and I hope you're ready for this. Just before we begin, well, what is it? It is shout out time. But, shout out time for me, right? It's more than just a shout out. It really is more than that. It's a way to kind of feedback from me to you, from you to me. What is it? Actually, what is it? I'll tell you what it is. It's a way to say thank you. It's a way to say thank you for listening. Thank you for getting in touch. It's a way to, it's my way of saying thank you. Okay. So, shout out goes to, first of all, Henderson the Hen. Yes, an actual hen named Henderson by one of the loveliest and longest and best listeners and extras, Z Malin. Thank you, Z. Love that. I never thought there would ever be a day in my life that I would ever say, oh, there's a hen called Henderson, but that is really joyous for me. So thank you very much, and I hope that Henderson is doing well. Although I hate the birds and I have a phobia of them, I might make an exception for Henderson. Christy Lingard, thank you. Your email was gorgeous. You had some corrections for me, which I love. I always say this, get in touch with me with corrections. Tell me when I'm wrong. I'm not, I don't get everything right all the time. Please get in touch with me if I've got something wrong, but your email was lovely. Anthony Harry. Anthony, hello to you. Christina Watson, your Facebook feedback was just gorgeous. Thank you, Christina. Bob Johnson, who is new to the podcast and is also a Scotland local. Hello, Bob. Thank you for listening to me on your way to work every day. That's really nice to hear. And lastly, Chris Worrell. Chris, cheers, mate. Thank you for getting in touch on Facebook. Okay. Alright, so the weekend episode is here. And now, this one started with one story. And I wanted to just tell this one story. And then it grew bigger and bigger. And then I started to kind of go a bit outwards on it. And then I realised I was looking at one crazy organisation. But more importantly, the stories within that one organisation that I have mind for. And I think need to be told. So we will be talking about the Westboro Baptist Church. Now, before you think, oh yeah, heard a million podcasts on that, watched a million documentaries, seen it all, just listen and just let me give you my way of understanding the Westboro Baptist Church and the way that I've come to understand it and put this episode together comes to you in 5 chapters. Chapter 1, the hateful hat wearer. Chapter 2, Matthew 1. Chapter 3, Daughter 1. Chapter 4, Matthew 2. Chapter 5, Daughter 2. I'm going to take you through the Westboro Baptist Church in the best way that I can understand it. Are we ready? Okay. Let's go. Okay, who are they and where did all this crazy madness begin? Well, it started and it still exists in Topeka, Kansas. It originated from the Eastside Baptist Church. So the Eastside Baptist Church had a really strong congregation, and it still does. Their mission statement is this: our mission is to help people discover and rediscover Jesus Christ. That's fine. Okay. They're just another church doing their thing. Now, this is kind of the 1950s America. So they're just doing their own thing. That's fine. But they had one member of that congregation who had some different ideas about the church and its values. And who was that man? A man whose image I'm sure you will have seen a million times. A man called Fred Phelps, the hateful hat wearer himself. I call him that because he always wore a Stetson. That was his look. That was his thing. That was what he was really into. He loved that Stetson. Fucking hell, he loved that Stetson. My God, he was never seen without it. So, Fred Phelps. Just quickly, how had Fred ended up in this church? Well, at a young age, his mother had died and he had grown up living with his dad. Now, growing up as a teenager, he'd gone through his school life being like class speaker. He was really outspoken. He was a really fiercely political teenager, which I advocate for. I'm like, let teenagers be political. I work with teenagers. Let them be political. I try and give them a voice as much as I possibly can. Maybe not Fred's voice. Maybe not the voice that he was bringing. But okay, yeah, have a voice. Now, his father was a devout Methodist churchgoer. And the Methodist beliefs were a really big part of Fred's early life. But he had some problems with those beliefs. He struggled with the Methodist beliefs. Now, I am no expert in this, and please, if you have a way to educate me in this, please do. Please let me know. But Fred found himself at about 17 leaning towards a much more Baptist belief. He felt that the Baptist beliefs were much more for him, and his dad could be the Methodist. He just wanted to go Baptist. Now, I am, and I get this, if I was doing a religion podcast, we'd be here till 2045 trying to get through this. So I am bastardizing it, I get that, but the differences, as I can understand it, between Methodist and Baptist come down to a lot of things to do with communion. And Methodists would believe that everyone should be baptised and should receive communion, whereas Baptists believe that only those who are sound of mind can be baptised or receive communion. In the Methodist Church, pastors are appointed only by bishops, whereas in the Baptist Church, pastors can be appointed by the local church. In the Methodist Church, pastors can be male or female. In the Baptist Church, pastors are male only. In the Methodist Church, congregations are linked to each other. In the Baptist Church, local churches are self-governing. Now, the self-governing part of this is what actually is interesting here with what Fred is going to go on and build. So having this real difference, this real fucking difference between Methodist and Baptist meant that actually Fred and his dad, they grew apart. They could not. Fred got to a point in his life where he just could not understand his father's beliefs anymore, and what he wanted was to go out into the world at 17, 18 years old with his own beliefs. And they were strong. They were strong beliefs. So, he moves away from his dad and he goes to college. A huge issue for Fred Phelps was his father remarried a divorced woman. And I think this is shocking. I think it's absolutely shocking. But to a 17-year-old Fred, this was unacceptable. He didn't believe in divorce. So in his eyes, his father had committed a terrible sin. There was a terrible sin happening here because he'd married a divorced woman. Because at age 17, he believed that marriage was for life. Marriage was it. You rode it out until the end, basically. I mean, before we even get into this, that's a really tragic belief for a 17-year-old to have. Because you don't know love. You don't know the problems of a fucking relationship. You don't know all the shit that comes with it that might make someone need to be out of a relationship. Or you also don't know the things that make someone cling on, hold on to a relationship. You don't know any of those things. So at 17, he was condemning his father for marrying a divorced woman. And so, Fred and his dad, they parted ways and they never spoke again. Fred went away aged 17 to college and he never spoke to his dad again. Because by this point he was like, I am so into the Baptist way of thinking and divorce and remarrying a woman who's already been married is not acceptable. Cold-hearted bastard. But that'll become clear. So he goes to college and he takes up street preaching. Lovely. I mean, you know, everyone's got to have a job in college. I mean, mine was working in coffee shops, but okay, Fred, if you want to take up street preaching, that's fine. And he used his street preaching to lecture students and staff about, and I quote, sins committed on campus by students and teachers. And this included promiscuous petting, evil language, profanity, cheating, and people pandering to the lusts of the flesh. Kind of sounds like all the things that I actually quite like in life. Anyway, Fred is forced to stop this street preaching by the college. They say, nah, Fred, move on, mate. We're not interested. We don't need this. Does he stop it? No, does he? Fuck. What he does is he moves across the road. He just literally moves across the road away from the college. Because then they're like, well, actually, you're not on college grounds anymore. You're now on... You're now in a public area. So now, yeah. This is actually... This is just the start of where all the bloody problems come with these guys, is that they always know the loophole. The loophole is you can't say it in college grounds, and Fred's like, well, that's fine. Can I say it if I move across the road? Well, yeah, okay, you can, because then you're now just in public area. So he meets a girl named Margie Sims, and they move to Topeka in Kansas, where Fred will join the East Baptist Church as an associate pastor. And it's from here that his plans begin to form. Right, so what he does is he starts using his position, his sermon, his status to try and bring people in the church around to his way of thinking. And it's a really extreme way of thinking. He practices some awful hate speech against homosexuality, and he informs the congregation that he's planning to start up his own organisation. He wants to break away. He wants to start something called the Westboro Baptist Church, and he wanted them all to join him. Now, some did. A few fucking idiots believed what Fred Phelps had to say, and they went with him to the new church. But a lot of people, they didn't. For them, it was spreading hate. This really interests me, because a lot of people who Fred tried to get to come with him to his new church in later years, when they were asked about it or questioned about it, they said, I agreed with his principles. They said, I don't think homosexuality is right or it should be tolerated, but the way that he wanted to spread his message was just too extreme. So, with a few recruits and himself firmly, I mean really firmly, at the head of this organisation, the Westboro Baptist Church is born. Now, their base is the Phelps House, and this is where they run the organisation / church from. A lot of people from the extended Phelps family, they get involved and become a part of the church. So the church, let's get to the nuts and the bolts of what they're about. What is the message? Why do we see signs that say, God hates fags? No tears for queers. Thank God for dead soldiers. Thank God for 9/11. Oh man, even saying those out loud makes me fucking angry. Well, this is Fred's great wisdom, and it's the founding principles of that church. The USA allows gays to exist, or fags, as they like to say. Not they like to say like as in Americans like to say, as in Westboro Baptist Church like to say. Now, because the USA tolerates these fags, the USA is doomed. It is doomed because it's a fag-enabling country. It allows homosexuality to exist. Therefore, it's doomed. And that's why God hates America. So when they have signs that say, thank God for 9/11, what they mean is that God sent 9/11 as a punishment for tolerating gays. When they say thank God for dead soldiers, they believe that when a soldier has died in battle, or in Iraq, in wherever, they believe that that's another punishment from God, because the USA continues to tolerate gays. They also include some other sins of the flesh, as they call it, in there. But pretty much the bulk of their hatred is for the gays. Okay, so they've set up their house, which is their church headquarters, Phelps HQ. So what is their objective? What does Fred Phelps want to achieve? Well, quite simply, the fucking hateful hat wearer, he wants everyone in the world to understand his message. He wants everyone to hear his message. And how they spread their message is largely through protest. At first, Fred, he goes back and he calls upon his days of street preaching and, going out and speaking to people and standing in the streets. And they take to all the major cities in Kansas. They have their signs, God hates fags, and they talk to people in the street. They hand out leaflets that they hope will spread the message that we're all doomed. Doomed, I tell you, if we allow the dirty, dirty gays to continue in the world. But what they want is, they want bigger exposure. So, they start to protest funerals. And I guess actually now, that's what they're most famous for. They begin to attend funerals of dead soldiers, gay men, lesbian women, and they start to get the recognition that they actually want in the world. Because you know what? Here's the thing. It's alright for the Westboro Baptist Church to be this organisation where the Phelps family all live in one house and they've got 100 members and they're going out and doing whatever. They want exposure. They want headlines. They want to be seen. They want this message to be global. What better fucking way to do it than actually go and start protesting funerals? And that's exactly what they start to do. They start to do it on such a big scale. They start taking all of their signs to funerals across America. Now, what funerals are they going to? Well, they're going to the funerals of anyone who was gay. They're going to the funerals of soldiers. They're going to the funerals of kids who have been killed in a school shooting. I mean, come on. And the message is always the same. This is all happening because you, America, you, the world, are allowing gays to exist. Do you know what my question was with this straight away? I was like, who the fuck's funding this? Who's paying for this? Because they're travelling all over America. Is it collective living? Are they all doing different things and just putting money in? What the fuck? Who the fuck's paying for this? They don't work. This is their work. Who the fuck's paying for this? Well, that'll become clear later. I think what's causing people to be outraged is that actually the Phelps family, and there's about 1 million of them. I think there's possibly more Phelps family than there are members of the actual community. Some of the really youngest members are at funerals and they're holding signs. I mean, it is horrific to see an image of a 3-year-old girl holding a sign that says, AIDS is God's revenge. She can't even read. These kids are 3 and 4. The sign is fucking bigger than her body. And she's holding a sign that says, AIDS is God's revenge. No, fuck off. Get that to fuck. No, I can't have that. There's a brilliant moment. I'm sure so many of you will have seen it. I'm sure maybe everyone's seen it. There is an amazing moment in a Louis Theroux documentary where he goes to the Phelps family and he spends a weekend with them, and he asks the youngest kids, what are you doing tomorrow? And they say, we're going to go out and protest the fags. And he says to them, what is a fag? And they just look utterly blank. For a moment, they just look utterly confused. They look at each other in panic, like they don't know how to answer the question. And that's the genius of Louis Theroux. That's the fucking brilliance of that man, is to actually just ask the right question and go, yeah, you're holding a sign. Fucking, what is that? Why the fuck would a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old know what the fuck that was about? Oh man, fucking raging. So, all the while that these protests are happening all around, Fred Phelps is in his house delivering sermons to all who will congregate and listen to him. And in an attempt to reach out to even more people, they branch into singing. Now, singing in church, as we know, is very normal. Love myself a bit of, he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the moon and the stars in his hand. I don't know the rest of the words. Da, da. Don't know why I tried to make it into a show tune at the end. Da-na-na-na. It's not a show tune. It's a hymn. Is that the kind of song they're singing? No. Anyway, so the Phelps, they are all about thinking that if they can have songs, that's a way to communicate. That's a way to get their message out. They can keep communicating with people through music. Now, whoever their musical producer is needs to get to fuck. Because there were some really bad choices in here. Some really terrible choices. The lyrical choices, the songs are awful. Mainly what they do is they take well-known songs and they change the lyrics. So, God hates the world and all her people. You, everyone, face a fiery day for your proud sinning. It's too late to change your mind. You lived out your vain life, storing up God's wrath for all eternity.
You've crossed the line. You won't heed this final call. Evil world, you've come together as one. See your soldiers dying, for you claim God's blessing you. That lie, the greatest lie of all.
You can't go on pretending day by day that the God of judgment is dead and gone.
You are all a part of the devil's family, and the truth, you're all headed straight to hell. God hates the world and all her people. You, everyone, face a fiery day for your proud sinning. It's too late to change his mind. You lived out your vain lives, storing up God's wrath for all eternity.
Oh, it's catchy, isn't it? I like it. Yeah, I'm into it. I think what I would like is, I think I would like a really like hardcore disco remix of it. Yeah, I can see myself on a Saturday night like getting ready to go out. I'm like, ooh, getting ready to go to the clubs, having a great time. Like, ooh. Do you know what? Just put off that really great Scissor Sisters electronic dance music that I love. Give us a bit of God Hates the World disco remix. Yes. Give me it. No. Come on. Obviously, I'm kidding. I'm taking the piss. It's fucking awful. It includes the line, "You will eat your own children." Like, what? Like, by this point, what? Yeah, like what? Like, what the fuck are you even going on about? So by now the Phelps are big. They're on TV shows everywhere. They're giving interviews. Documentary makers are coming at them all the time. Everybody is swarming at them and wanting to get inside this house. They want to meet the people involved in this church.
God Hates Fags is a profound theological statement that we're prepared to defend from the Bible against all comers. Fags is a contraction of the word faggots, which is an elegant metaphor for all the homosexuals and their neighbors. Fags. It's elegant and it's appropriate. They're fags. They're called fags, a contraction of faggots, because they have kindled the fires of God Almighty's wrath. Kindle the fires of wrath in their lust one for another. Kindle the fires of wrath by virtue of the place they're headed, where the worm that eats on them never dies and the fires never quench. By a multitude of common sense arguments, God Hates Fags is not only true, it's profound, and it's divine. And we are intent upon publishing that message to the whole world.
And that's why. This is the kind of speech Fred was giving at any opportunity. The family continues to grow. Fred and his wife Margie have 13 children. They are building a fucking army. That's what they're doing. They're building an army. No joke. I genuinely think that's what they're doing. Of course, I said it before, but anyone who's born into the family is immediately given the belief system from the early years. So we're going to move on to the next chapter in this episode. We'll press pause on the church for a minute. Now that we know what they're about, what they wanted was national, huge exposure, and to be seen around the world. And the next funeral that they choose to protest is the one that's going to do that for them. So we are going to Wyoming, and specifically to Laramie. In 1998, Matthew Shepard is a young man living with his family. His parents are made up of Judy, Dennis, and his younger brother Logan. He's described by his dad as an optimistic and accepting young man with a special gift of relating to almost everyone. Right, so Laramie, where the family live, it used to be a ranching town, and it's really quite the vast and big open space. Huge stretches of plains and plenty of ranches. But it still has a strong hive of activity going on. I think most of the employment in Laramie was coming in the late 90s from the university. It's kind of described as one of these places where The streets are lined with trees, and it's this really sort of picturesque, sort of lovely place. But like anywhere, it's got its restaurants, it's got its pubs, it's got a collection of places for people to visit. So Matthew Shepherd, he proved early on to be really bright, a really smart guy, and he had a real drive for politics. Even at a young age, he was driven by political change. He was driven by political thinking. He was really popular at school, and well, he was kind of picked on a little bit by some people. I don't really think it's bullied. I don't really think it's that he was bullied. I think it's that he was just kind of picked on by the fact that he was quite small and he wasn't really into sports. I don't think it was anything serious, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it was ever a big kind of bullying issue. It was just more teasing at school. Utter just fucking school ridiculousness that we've all been through and we've all known what that's about. So Matthew absolutely loved a challenge. He grabbed every opportunity to go and do something new, to try and find some new things in the world. He was really optimistic about all these things. He got the opportunity to go to Switzerland and study for a year, and he grabbed that opportunity by both hands. By the time that going to university was on the horizon, he was absolutely sure that he wanted to study politics. What he really wanted to do was work in human rights. That was his thing. That was what he really wanted to head towards. Now, Matthew was openly gay. I don't imagine that was for a second easy in Laramie. But, you know, his family, they were really accepting. Matthew had lots of friends and he had people around him. And now he needed these people around him because he suffered quite a lot from depression. His mother, Judy, puts it that sometimes he would just disappear into himself for periods of time, or he would become a bit withdrawn. But he would bounce back. He would make his way through it. Now, Matthew, like everyone who goes to university and is young, liked to drink. He liked to go out. He liked to party, like most people do. He would go out, he'd have fun, he'd have a drink, maybe dabble in the odd drug here and there, and, you know, nothing serious, nothing terribly serious. Laramie doesn't really have itself a gay bar or a gay club. It's got what's called the Fireside Bar, which describes itself as gay friendly. And this is where sometimes Matthew had been. On October the 6th, 1998, Matthew was at home with not much to do, and he decided to head down to the Fireside Bar. He gets a taxi down and he tells the driver Lou, who he's known for many years, that he's really enjoying university and he's having fun in his life at the moment. So Matthew gets to the bar, goes in, orders a drink, and he sits at the bar and he starts to have a couple of drinks. Now, the bar has a pool table, and there's two people playing pool that evening. Their names are Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson. Now, McKinney and Henderson, they are locals of Laramie. So just a quick little history on them. Aaron McKinney grew up in a, well, less than perfect family situation. His dad worked as a truck driver and was never home, and his mother died as the result of some bad surgery she'd received. She'd gone for plastic surgery and it went wrong, and as a result she died. Horrible. But her death resulted in a $100,000 compensation payout for the McKinney family. And so Adam McKinney, young guy, had loads of money. He had all the money in the world. He spent it mainly on drugs and on cars and going out partying. His friend Russell Henderson, he was living with his alcoholic mother, who had a string of different boyfriends coming and going all over the place. So the two of them, they spent a lot of time together. Their home lives were terrible, so they spent most of their time together. So they're in the fireside bar, they're playing pool together, and they're watching Matthew sit at the bar and have a few drinks. They decide to go over and start talking to him. The conversation between the three men results in all three of them leaving the bar and getting into McKinney's truck just outside. Why is Matthew leaving with these two men? These two guys who aren't a part of his world day to day. Well, theories range from McKinney and Henderson approaching Matthew and offering him a threesome, or McKinney and Henderson seeing a guy who looked like a really easy target to rob because he was slight, he was small, and he's dressed in a way that indicates that he might have money. Or is it possible that during that conversation Matthew asked for some drugs and they were taking him to get some? We don't know that part of the story. We don't know what happened in that conversation, but what we do know is what happens next. And it is horrific. It's horrible. It's hard to hear. But I'd say stick with me. I'd probably say it's one of the most horrific and violent and terrible crimes that I can think of. But you need to know this situation to understand the impact of this situation, and the impact is big. So stick with me, I'll take you through it. The three guys get inside the truck and they're all sitting in the front. McKinney takes out a pistol, and the first thing that he does is he hits Matthew across the head with it. This causes Matthew's head to start bleeding, and McKinney then turns to his friend Henderson and says, take out his wallet and see what you can find. Now they don't find much, they only find like $30 or $40. The hit on the head to Matthew is bad, and the fact that there is such a small amount of money in the wallet, it sends McKinney into a rage. He gets fucking raging that there's no more money in this wallet. He wanted more than $30, $40. And so he starts to attack Matthew again with a pistol. He keeps hitting him in the head and he's punching him. And McKinney says to Henderson, let's get him out of here. I've fucked him up. I've fucked him in the face. I've hit him with the pistol. I've done this. Let's get him out of here. Leave him somewhere and we can get away. Fucking hell. It's just awful. So they drive Matthew out of the main part of Laramie into a really secluded spot. Do they just, at this point, dump Matthew in the road? No. What they do is even more horrific. They arrive at the spot where they're going to leave him. They're going to dump him. And they find a fence. Matthew's like coming in and out of consciousness at this point. He's been hit so badly on the head. His body's bruised at this point. They take him out of the truck and they tie him to the fence, crucifixion style. They spread his arms to either side. They tie ropes around his wrists so that he is firmly connected to that fence. Like a fucking scarecrow. That's what it looks like. It's like a fucking scarecrow. It's awful. It just like they actually spread his arms right out. They tie these fucking ropes around his wrists. At this point, McKinney takes the pistol that he'd used before and he whips Matthew 16 times across the head and the face, and he kicks Matthew's body. He kicks him in the ribs, he kicks him in the face, he kicks him to fuck. After his body is beaten with the gun, they make sure there's nothing else that they could take from him. Nothing else that they could take from Matthew at that point. They get back in the pickup and they leave Matthew's body tied to the fence. The final shot by Henderson and McKinney is to light some matches and throw them at Matthew's body. Okay. Matthew's body stayed tied to the fence for 18 hours before his body was found. A student of the same university that Matthew went to was out on a bike ride and he finds Matthew. I mean, complete shock. For this guy, complete and utter shock. He sees that the body is breathing, but not breathing very well. So he tries to give him mouth to mouth. But Matthew's face is so badly beaten that he can't actually get the mouth open. This guy uses the nearest sharp object that he can find, and he tries to cut the ties around his wrists and let him down and release his body from the fence. He says that there were just pools of blood everywhere. It was just blood all over Matthew and all over the ground. He raises the alarm and police arrive. The first officer to arrive on the scene is completely shocked. He just cannot deal with what he's looking at. It's just the most horrific sight. He says it was like nothing I'd ever looked at in my life. I didn't know what this was. He's taken to the hospital, and the doctors who try and treat him, they're all in shock. They say we'd never seen anything like this before, where a body was so badly beaten and a face had been so badly hit. But he's alive. Albeit his head might be smashed in, he's breathing. So Matthew is put on life support, and he's treated, and he holds up. He fights for life. But after 5 days, his body just gives up, and he dies. Henderson and McKinney, they've already been arrested by the time Matthew dies. Fucking idiots. The night that they murdered Matthew, they left his body. They went back into the centre of Laramie, where they ended up in a fight with some other idiots over drugs and money and whatever. And McKinney, he brings out the same pistol that he has just whipped a guy to fucking death with. He brings out that same pistol and threatens him with it. Anyway, in this altercation, police are called, and both McKinney and Henderson, they're taken to prison because of that altercation. But now police have them in a cell, but they also have the gun, and the gun is covered in Matthew's blood. So first, of course, they both try to deny it. They say, no, it's nothing to do with us. We don't know. We don't even know who Matthew Shepard is. We've got no clue. We've got no clue how our gun could possibly have his blood on it. But you know what? Police are like, come on. Everybody saw you leave together. The three of you leave the pub together. And now we've got a pistol, and it's covered in his blood. So, you know, let's just be honest about this. It's clearly fucking them. It's clearly them. The news of Matthew Shepard's death, it shocks not only America, but the world. The world is shocked by this. And it becomes a real focus worldwide. And the headline is America's worst hate crime. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it could be. Yeah. Immediately the story is given that 2 men lured a gay man out of a bar, and they beat him to death, and they tied him to a fence and left him to die. And I mean, the publicity around this is massive. Even, like, I remember living in, I remember living in Scotland. I still live in Scotland. Living in Scotland, this story was still on the news. Do you know what I mean? And this is like, you go back 1998, it was the days before all your Twitters and your fucking Instagrams and all that. It was the days before that. So actually for this story to break through and have a presence on worldwide news was huge. You know, it was something absolutely fucking huge, because it was just horrific. It was just maybe, as they say, the worst hate crime ever. In America, Bill Clinton came out to make a speech about it and condemn every act of hate that ever happened in America. Now, I just really feel here, I really feel for Judy and for Dennis, for Matthew's parents. They've just lost their son in the most brutal way, and they are thrust into the fucking limelight. They have to very quickly give interviews, they have to talk to people, and I just think must have been the most brutal time for the both of them. McKinney and Henderson are quickly becoming the two most hated men in the world. So the date for Matthew's funeral is picked, and it's publicly announced. I mean, it has to be. The story is so big now. They can't avoid letting the world know when it's happening. And actually that's really because it's not just about Matthew Shepherd being tied to that fence and beaten to death on that night. It speaks about a much bigger issue. It speaks about a world issue. It speaks about homophobia. It speaks about hate crime. It speaks about so many other things that actually they had no choice but to say this is when Matthew's funeral is going to be, because the whole entire incident was now playing out in the world. So everyone had to know when that funeral was going to come. In advance of the funeral, people from every corner of the world, they were sending gifts, they were sending flowers. People started travelling miles to attend this funeral. The White House, they were sending flowers. At one point, I mean, it's insane. Like, at one point, Madonna got involved with the situation. She was phoning her, his principal in school. Elton John got involved. I mean, it was huge. It was absolutely massive. Vigils were being held all over America and in other countries where people would come together with huge posters of Matthew. They would light candles. They would talk about the unfairness of his death and how a change needed to happen. It was that, if I can use the word visceral, it was that kind of it really grabbed people and pulled people from within. Because, a lot of true crime podcasts will talk about the same cases over and over again. And I'm sure Matthew Shepherd's been one of them. But we'll talk about a lot of these same things that just feel really real. And I think that's what actually is what it is. It's the unfairness of it. It's the fucking fact that you want to kind of do something about it or feel something about it. So it's, it's your... I mean, this is going to sound like a ridiculous comparison, but it's your John Bonet's, it's your fucking Casey Anthony's. It's those ones where you feel like an internal anger. You feel like just deep inside you, something is making you so fucking angry. And that's why these stories get told again and again and again. Because there are just cases in the world that you can pass over and you can kind of go, well, that was fine. That was fine. But that happened. That was whatever that was. But when there's a real injustice to someone, when there's a real sense of that kicks you like a fucking kick in the balls, then that's why you want to talk about it. And I think that's why everyone wanted to talk about Matthew Shepherd, because It felt like a moment. It's a moment of change. It's a moment of something horrific happened. And it needs to be given that moment. It needs to be given that time. So the eyes of the world are on Laramie. They're on Dennis and Judy. Now they come forward and they say, what we really want is, we really want privacy to bury our son. We just want to have a funeral where we can bury him and have some time to mourn. But guess who? Just take a fucking guess who? Here's the Matthew Shepherd story and wants a piece of the action. The fucking Whisperer Baptist Church. They decide they're going to go and they're going to protest his funeral. To them, this is the ultimate. It's what they've been waiting for. It's the ultimate sign that God is punishing the fags. So the day of the funeral arrives. And I want you to, if you've never seen the images, I'm sure so many of you will, but if you've never seen the images, just picture this. Outside of the church where Matthew is going to have his funeral, the Westminster Baptist Church members, they gather, they have their signs all over the place. It's the usual, God hates fags. AIDS is a punishment from God. But they add some new ones for that day. Horrific signs that say, Matt is in hell. Fags like Matt deserve to die. I mean, I just can't even deal with it. So they got megaphones and they're shouting. Oh man, God. Fuck. Do you know what? I wish there was one moment in life where I could have been, if I had some sort of machine that could take me to any moment in life, I would have gone there in that machine and I would have bitch slapped every fucking one of them, because how disrespectful, how fucking disrespectful can you possibly be, you cunts? I mean, I'm sorry, but yeah, don't. How can you imagine? Can you fucking imagine, as a parent, you're going in to bury your child who has died in the worst way possible, and someone is holding a sign that says Matt is in hell? Fuck that, man. Fuck that. So the peaceful funeral the family wanted, well, it wasn't happening because these fucking dicks turned up. Fred Phelps, he's there spouting his usual hatred, telling anyone who will listen that this is God's punishment. God is punishing us all. But, and this is lovely, this is a moment of something to hold on to that is lovely. Knowing that they were going to appear, a large group of Matthew's friends got together and they called themselves Matthew's Angels. They were fighting against the Westminster Baptist Church. What they did was, and I love this, they made these huge outfits, right? You can find all these images, you can find them all online. They made these huge outfits, all in white, with the biggest angel wings you've ever seen. But like huge at the shoulder, right? So if you can imagine, like not just like big outwards at the shoulder, like big up at the shoulder. So almost like these, I don't know how to describe it, but they were just like these massive fucking outfits that they wore. And basically the point of wearing the massive outfits was to block out the signs, was to try and block out the Matt is in hell, God hates fags, to try and block those out. And they're so fucking, they absolutely brilliant. And what they did was, they put in, love this, they put in like little ear defenders, and they glided down the street on the day of Matthew's funeral. And they glided back and forth in front of the Westboro Baptist Church to obscure their signs and their chanting. And they did this so that when Matthew's family arrived, they wouldn't have to hear the Westboro Baptist Church shouting their hatred. So they timed it perfectly so that they were gliding up and down as Matthew's angels with their wings, and the family would not have to hear that hatred. Fucking good on them. Fucking yes. That's the kind of people I like in life. That's the kind of spirit I want in life. So the funeral, it was a spectacle. But it was always going to be a spectacle, is my thing. I think it was always going to be a spectacle because the death of Matthew was so horrific and so widely publicised. I think it was always going to be a spectacle. So, Westboro Baptist Church, they knew what they were doing. They fucking knew what they were doing. Arriving there, trying to cause a scene. But this was going to actually propel them into mega fame. This was the point where they were going to be like mega fame at this stage. Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson. Two men who committed that most horrific crime were both tried in court for the murder of Matthew Shepherd and found guilty. Each of them is now serving 2 consecutive life sentences, and neither of them will ever be free from prison. The judge, God bless that judge, the judge made sure that there was no way either of these guys was ever getting out of prison. So, good. A justice of sorts. I think actually the justice is the legacy of Matthew. Matthew's death is still strong in people's minds, and there's a foundation, there's films, there's books, and I just think Matthew Shepherd's death is not one of those ones that's ever going to be forgotten. Westboro Baptist Church, you can do what the fuck you like to try and come to that funeral and say what you want, but actually the actual death has left a massive impact. And I think most importantly, it's kind of awakened in the world, and probably most certainly in America, a need to address head on hate crime and homophobia. And Matthew Shepherd's death was 20 years ago, but I do actually think in some way it's had a profound effect. I do. I really think that if you were to really bore down into it and you were to really look at it, I think you would find somewhere in there that it actually has had an effect on the way that people look at gays and on the way that people feel about hate crime. Well, that's what I'd like to believe. I'd like to be, because I can't live in a world, I really can't live in a world where I think that Matthew Shepard died in vain, where there was nothing to learn from it. And I do think that I think we've taken something from it. I think we've taken a great lesson from it and moved forward. Well, that's my only way that I can possibly try to understand that. The Westminster Baptist Church obviously feel differently about that, and that to me is exceptionally sad, because no matter how deep down, deeply homophobic you are, you have to stop and you have to ask yourself, should anybody die in the way that he did because of their sexuality? No. I'll end this chapter, Matthew 1, by telling you what the Westboro Baptist Church handed out at Matthew's funeral. They handed out flyers which said, "It's too late to rescue Matthew Shepard from the life of sin and shame into which he was lured by the perverted, depraved and decadent American society into which he was born." Okay, the next chapter is called Daughter 1. Now, having become really famous and known worldwide, the Phelps family, they're individually becoming better known. It's no longer just about Fred. So, who is the rising star in this family? Who's coming through the ranks? Well, it's his daughter Shirley. Oh, Shirley. Oh God. Now, lots of you will be aware of Shirley's antics. You'll have seen some of the worst of Shirley. Some of you won't, but she is quite the individual. Shirley was the third daughter born to the Phelps family. And yes, of course, she was raised in their way of thinking. And she was young, and she was at those protests. Now, Shirley grew up with almost as much passion as Fred, as much passion as her dad for the principles of the Westboro Baptist Church. She had a crazy, and she still does, a crazy energy. Shirley took over the role of organising the picketing, what funerals they would go to. She essentially took over how they were communicating with the world. Remember I said about songs, that they were big into getting a song out there, trying to push their message through songs? Well, Shirley, she really believes in this. She is big on this. One of the best things that you will ever watch in your life. And I'm going to play you a clip in a minute. Is Shirley in a high school reappropriating Poker Face by Lady Gaga and singing it to a group of high school students who look at her like, are you actually having a fucking laugh? Like, are you actually kidding us on right now? Shirley's Lady Gaga is honestly, it's insane. So, here's how it goes.
You wanna strut like you're unique, but baby please, monster lady, gay, show your teeth, this is all me. God hates you. Fake love substitution is your game, you're just a fraud. But any half-wit sees your hate for fans and for your God. Oh, 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 you pissed off God, you'll see what he's got. Oh, 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 you pissed off God, you'll see what he's got. You ain't God, no, you ain't got no poker face. You show your filth to everybody. You just got, yeah, you just got your whorish face. Show your filth to everybody. Na poker face, na poker face. Na poker face, na poker face.
I mean, if you're going to rewrite lyrics and include the line, you can't hide your whore face, then Shirley, I mean, she's quite the lyricist. She is quite... It's fucking awful. It's so bad. So as Fred starts to get older and his health begins to fail, Shirley, she becomes the spokeswoman for the church. Now she's starting to now appear on TV, and she's the face of this church. She's the face of Whisper Baptist, while Fred is still behind closed doors. What's mad about Shirley is, and I mean, every Whisper Baptist church member is the same, but there's just no room for discussion. She's utterly not open for any kind of negotiation. She will not, in a conversation, have anything that attempts to even challenge her thinking, or and I know that like she doesn't want her thinking challenged, but interviewers will ask really fantastic questions and she will not move. She will not budge on it. She just doesn't want anyone to destabilise her opinions at any moment. She just will not be shaken. But also, she's talking bollocks. Half the time, what's coming out of her mouth is absolute nonsense. If someone challenges her, she just ends up talking in circles. And you're like, Shirley, what point are you actually trying to make? Because I can't find the point in what you are saying to me right now. There's a brilliant moment in the Louis Theroux documentary where she's trying to, oh god, it's so weird and complicated, but she's trying to align adultery with gay sex. And he says, yeah, but they're two different things. What are you talking about? And she says, well, no, there are men walking around in the world right now and they may be married to a woman, but they're having sex with other men. And Louis Theroux's like, are they? What What are you talking about? And she's so fierce in it that she's like, this is what's happening, Louis. You don't understand it. You just don't get it. And it's like, well, actually, no, nobody gets it. Because I think you're just talking a whole load of actual shit. You're just talking a whole load of pish. I'm not saying there aren't men out there who are in a marriage and are going and having gay sex on the side. That's fine. But Shirley apparently seems to believe that's what every man is doing. So that's what she wants to crack down on. For fuck's sake, man, she's a fucking nutter. So Shirley, in her 20s, she married a man who moved into the Westminster Baptist Church with her. His name is David Roper. Now, here's the thing. I've painted this picture of Shirley like she's a crazy, like she's a nutter. She's actually very, very intelligent, Shirley. And what she does is, she goes and she trains in law. Now, it's interesting because she's not the first nor the last of the Phelps family to go and study law. It seemed to be something big in their family to go and do. A lawyer who writes for a blog about different religious practices in America says, the thing you've got to remember is this family is full of lawyers and law experts. They have got it sewn up. It's interesting to me that so many of them went into law. Something tells me that came from Fred. Something says to me that they knew in the future they were going to be battling against lawsuits and they were going to get themselves into really tangled legal battles, and that they would have to know how to fight against that. The fact that they had actually really successfully dodged quite a few lawsuits already tells me that actually Shirley being the figurehead was the right choice, because actually she knows the law. So, her and her husband, they have kids, many kids, and these kids grow up in the way that Shirley did, singing in the church, going out to protests, holding signs. It's kind of this weird thing in the Phelps family, like it's almost translated to the kids like it's a privilege to go and do this. It's almost like when they're 3 and 4, you hear some of the younger ones talking and it's fucking heartbreaking. But when they're 3 and 4, they're like, I want to go on that protest, and they're not quite allowed to go on this particular one. So they then have it as an ambition in life to be 6 or 7 and be given the opportunity to go and hold a sign that says, God hate fags. Ugh. God. It's awful. But that's how Shirley raises her children. Now, Fred's health, it's really beginning to fail. And here's why, and here's how it happened. His wife, Margie, she had a really terrible health scare. They thought that she was going to die. Fred's wife, the grandmother, the matriarch of the Phelps family, they thought in about 2012 that she was going to die. And by now, her and Fred, they're in their 70s. The church is essentially being managed by Shirley. And this health scare, it really took its toll on Fred Phelps. He was really shaken by this. And, well, this is a right turn up for the books. It appears Fred might have been having some second thoughts about his views. The very views that he had built this monster upon were changing in Fred. Fred was actually excommunicated from the Westminster Baptist Church. I mean, wait a minute. Right. So the monster that he has actually created has now turned against him and said, no, we don't want you anymore. And the reason that Fred was excommunicated from the very fucking church that he founded in the beginning is that actually in his 70s he started to change his mind about some of the things that he'd said. He actually started to have conversations with humanitarian groups who were fighting for real humanitarian rights. And he said to them, you're good people. You're good people who just want good in the world. He also, and this is a direct quote from his family, weakened his views on homosexuality. I mean, what a fucking irony. What a fucking... that is insane. So by the end of his life, he's coming towards the end of his life, and he's now turning around and going, actually, I might have been wrong when I said all those terrible things about gays. I might have been wrong when I did all those protests. But actually, fuck. The problem is, the beast was bigger than Fred at this point. I am in no fucking way saying that I think Fred Phelps should, be applauded for the fact that by the end of his life he reached a different kind of opinion, a different kind of reconciliation with things. I'm not saying that. I just mean that I just think it's odd that, like, by the end of his life he went, oh, I actually might have been really wrong about this all along. Fred's health begins to decline. It really, really worsens. And the family around him, well, what can they say about Fred's last few days? Well, they can say this: Fred refused to be touched or helped by any family member because he didn't want close contact with them. Get this. Fucking get this. He dies. And what does the world want? Fred Phelps is dead. What do you think the world wants at this point? They want a funeral. They want a funeral so that they can go to his funeral and protest it and exclaim their fucking rage at all the hatred that he has spread and tried to create for years. Now, does he have a funeral? No. There's no funeral. The Westboro Baptist Church say Fred Phelps will not have a funeral because we don't worship the dead. Now, right, this is a thorny issue. I know it is, but I hate everything. I hate everything that church stands for. But at the same time, oh fuck man, this is a real fucking mind bender for me. Yeah, no, I know how I feel. Right, let me get to it. This is how I feel. I don't think thousands of people protesting his funeral was going to change anything. A funeral never happened, but I don't think that the people were gagging for it. They were fucking ready for a Fred Phelps funeral. They wanted it so that they could come with signs and do whatever. I don't know. I genuinely think that would have actually changed anything or done anything in the world. I also don't think that the family just letting him pass away and there not being a funeral is okay. I don't think that's okay either. It's a really complicated one. I don't know. I know that he never showed respect. He never showed respect to soldiers, to gay women, gay men, people who died. He never. But I also just think there's a little bit of me that goes, I understand the anger in people and the want to go and fucking protest his funeral, but is it going to make a difference? I don't know. And also, should we just say he's dead? So that's it. Anyway, with Fred gone, Shirley is in charge. Shirley becomes very much the face of the Westboro Baptist Church, but not for too long. After a few years, Shirley, she gets stripped of her powers of being spokesperson, because it's felt by the board of the church, the elders, 7 men, I may add, that Shirley should be removed. She should be removed as the face of the church, and that the duties of public speaking should just be shared out amongst everyone else in the family and other churchgoers. Shirley to this day still protests. She's still the one holding more signs than anybody else. But why was she pushed out as the figurehead? My guess, this is theories and musings, was it possibly a sexist thing? Did the elders, I just wonder if they felt like they needed a male figurehead. Or was her presence on TV shows and different interviews actually damaging, because she is a bit unhinged and she carries a weird energy. She carries a very difficult energy that's like, what? She's just got a kind of crazy energy about her that is quite hard to connect with. Or did Shirley jump herself from the position of being spokesperson. I mean, I think that's unlikely given the strength of her feelings about the Westboro Baptist Church and their values. But I just don't know. There's a lot of things they were surely stepping down as figurehead that just, I don't know, cause me questions. So, Shirley has stepped down. Fred is dead. And so on to the next chapter. Matthew 2. Okay, the next chapter is Matthew 2. So Matthew Snyder was, I'm laughing because Snyder, I don't know if this word exists elsewhere, but in Scotland, if someone's being a bit snide, it means they're being a bit cutting, a bit underhand with you. So you'd say to someone, why are you being so snide about this? Why are you being so difficult? Anyway, that's another thing entirely. Matthew Snyder, he was in the US Marines and he died in Iraq. Now, Westboro Baptist Church, they decide that they are going to protest his funeral with their usual speeches, their usual hatred, with their usual God hates America and their thank God for dead soldiers. Oh, fucking hell, man. These clowns need to fucking get a grip. So, Matthew's mum and dad, they say, no, we're not having this. We're not happy with this. They just want a peaceful funeral for their son, which, of course, everybody would want. But the Westboro Baptist Church decide to invade that moment when they can bury their son. They can actually put their son to rest, who's young. He's like 21, 22, and they cannot get that moment because the Westboro Baptist Church come along to fucking wreck that moment for them. So, Matthew's dad, Albert, he decides, we're going to sue the church. We're going to sue the church because actually they took away our private moment. Our moment to bury our son was taken away by these people. So it goes to court. And of course, the Snyder family, they can argue our moment was taken away. Our moment was marred by the fact that there were pickets. Our moment was destroyed by the fact that there were lines of people singing hateful songs, showing signs that said, thank God for dead soldiers. But the Westboro Baptist Church, they come back with, well, it's free speech. Hey, it's free speech. I can say what I want. I can do what I want. America loves free speech, so I'll speak freely. I'll say what I want. Now, the jury, they agree with the Snyder family. Thank God. They agree that actually this moment when they should have been able to say goodbye to their son was completely marred by the Westboro Baptist Church. The jury suggests a £10 million payout. Now the judge reduces this to $5 million. Now, you'll remember that I told you they're good at law, the Westboro Baptist Church. They're good at knowing their way around the law. And I don't think that's unintentional. I think Fred Phelps knew exactly what he was doing when he sent some of his children and grandchildren to study law. It's because actually they knew the shit that was coming their way. They knew that there was going to be a wave of this. They knew that their acts were always going to be contested by somebody. Somebody somewhere was always going to go no. But they knew the law. They knew the law. And so actually, it's fucking awful for this family, because all that they wanted was to bury their son in peace, and the Westboro Baptist Church ruined that fucking moment for them to do it. And then when they took them to court, the Westboro Baptist Church came back and said, we're going to now sue you. Oh, it's ridiculous. We're going to now sue you for the fact that you tried to close down our freedom of speech. So, it's ludicrous. It's like something you would watch in a fucking sitcom. It's awful. It goes back to court. This time the Westboro Baptist Church are saying we won't be silenced. Free speech. You can't shut our voices down. So the Supreme Court judges meet, and this is unbelievable. They demand that the Snyder family pay the Phelps $16,000 in damages. And this is to cover the Phelps' cost of ever having come to court. Are you fucking kidding me on? What even is that? The Supreme Court rule that the Phelps weren't doing anything wrong on that day, and that free speech has to be allowed. I agree. Free speech has to be allowed, but not the hateful fucking speech that they're bringing to a funeral. Not the hateful speech that they are trying to send everywhere. It's fucking outrageous. It's outrageous. If I was to stand, right, if I was to go, right, get myself a megaphone, stand in the middle of Glasgow city centre right now and start spouting hate speech, what would happen to me? What would happen to me? I don't actually know. That's an actual question that I'm asking. I don't actually know. What would happen to me? Would I be arrested? Well, do you know what the thing is? The fucking shitty, terrible thing is, I'd probably be arrested on something like breach of peace, or like making a loud noise where I shouldn't be. But actually, the speech that I was making would be completely lost in the argument somewhere. It would be entirely lost in whatever that was. And this is where it comes down to. This is what's really complex about this, is that actually those who ruled against the Snyder family and said, no, you now owe the Westboro Baptist Church money, is that they were saying, well, actually, they're just making a speech. You can interpret that in whichever way that you want. You call it hate speech. It's not necessarily hate speech. And Albert Snyder, my God, who just lost his son, said, listen to what they're saying. Look at these signs. These signs say, thank God for dead soldiers. And the judge put that down to, it's interpretation. What? Are you having a fucking laugh, mate? I don't care if you're a judge. I don't care if you're the most fucking educated person I have met in my life. Are you having a fucking laugh? Thank God for dead soldiers is up for interpretation. No, it's not. Get on your fucking bike and get to fuck. Just get to fuck. So the Snyder family end up having to pay the Westboro Baptist Church $16,000. I mean, can we just... Yeah. I won't dwell on this for too long, but can we just deal with the ridiculousness of this? So basically, they came, protested the funeral of their son, and now they have to pay the Westboro Baptist Church. Are you fucking having a laugh, man? What the fuck is wrong in the world? What the fuck is wrong in the world? At the end of this, Albert Snyder said, I would just like us all to agree that we should have the right to bury the dead in peace. It doesn't affect the justices of this country. The Phelps are never going to picket the funerals of the justices. They wouldn't dare. He does say, which kind of made me laugh, he said, I don't think the Phelps family are stupid. They're smart people, but they don't have the common sense God gave a goat. And he says it in absolute seriousness. He says it with absolute certainty. But, you know, Albert, I think you're right. Okay, on to the final chapter, Daughter 2. Shirley's eldest daughter, Megan, had followed the beliefs of the Westboro Bastard Church all of her life. She went with her mother Shirley to every event. She and her grandfather Fred, they were close. She was a true church member. And this is interesting. Megan was being lined up to be the next leader of the Westboro Baptist Church. Now, she was young. She was only 20, 21. But she was being lined up as the next leader. So, you know, she's Shirley's daughter. She's Fred's favourite granddaughter. It all makes sense. So there she is. She's making signs. She's turning up at funerals. I mean, the footage of Megan goes back to when she was like 7 or 8. And she's holding up these signs. She talks a lot in her early interviews about fag enablers. This is a big phrase that she keeps coming back to, and it becomes one of the things that Westboro Baptist Church talk about a lot. fag enablers. So a fag enabler is someone who either supports or allows homosexuality. I mean, come on. But now, Meghan, this incredible, going to be the next head of the church, she reaches her 20s and something in her is beginning to question some of the church beliefs. She reaches the point where she says, I just started to have other thoughts. She asks herself, was being gay so bad? And were dead soldiers really a punishment from God? And now once those doubts are in her head, they're hard to shift. Now you know that feeling, and I know that feeling. There's times, there's moments in life when you just get an idea that something isn't right in your head, and once you start to grasp that feeling and really think about it, actually it starts to take hold of you. It can be a situation you're watching unfold in front of you. You know, the kind of thing where you're just like, this isn't right. This is not right. So the doubts got louder and louder in Meghan's head. And she makes the really bold decision. She is going to leave. She's going to leave the church behind. This is the girl who was literally going to be the next head of it. Next head of the Westminster Baptist Church. She decides, I'm going. I don't want this. I need to get out of this toxic situation as soon as I can. Now that can't have been easy for her. Bear in mind, you know, can cast a lot of scorn on the Westminster Baptist Church, but I will say this: if you were born into that and you were literally at 3 years old holding a sign that said AIDS is God's punishment, you know, and then you grew up through it, and your grandfather was Fred and your mum was Crazy Shirley, then it takes real strength. It takes such strength to get to your mid-20s and go, I've literally lived this whole entire life and I doubt it. I doubt everything that I've been told, and I need to change, and something needs to change. So, you know, good on her. Good on her for having doubts. Good on her for having a wonder in her head. In a statement that she wrote called Head Full of Doubt, Road Full of Promises, Meghan says, I know we've done and we've said things that hurt people. Inflicting pain was never the goal, but it was one of the outcomes. I wish it wasn't so, and I regret the hurt. I know that I dearly love my family. They now consider me a betrayer, and I will be cut off from their lives. But I know that that is well intentioned. I will never not love them. I reached out so hard to Meghan to talk to me for this episode. Really wanted her to talk to me And I can imagine there's got to be a lot of people who want to talk to her, who want to get her story, but God, I'm probably going to end up with a fucking restraining order, because I literally was like emailing her, tweeting her, Instagram, Facebook, "Hi Megan, me again. Hey, just Barry from Extraordinary Stories Podcast. Want to have a chat? Want to talk to me?" Because I just really, really, really wanted her to talk to me. I just wanted to, I kind of wanted just to hear from her. Not, there's loads out there where she's like, "Yeah, this is why I left. This is what I think of the church." Da 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 da. I didn't want that. I just wanted like a one-to-one conversation with her where I could, I could just ask her kind of who she is. Really was what I wanted to know. I kind of just wanted to go, "Who are you? Like, let's have a chat. Let's open that up. Let's have a discussion about you." Anyway, it never happened, but that's a shame. So anyway, another day, maybe. Maybe there'll be a podcast in the future where I sit down with Megan and we talk. So Megan, in the process of leaving, she goes to her mum, Shirley. Big Shirley. She was probably writing a song at the time when she went to her. She's probably like trying to rewrite some Rihanna lyrics or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, whatever. And her mum is shocked. She's shocked that Megan wants to leave. And this is what she says to her. "You are a human being, my sweet darling. You need to listen to God and let Him guide you." For me, that's basically Shirley saying, you don't know what you're talking about. You're young, you're confused. You just need to let God guide you. But does it stop Megan? Does it? Fucking hell. Megan goes. She leaves the Westminster Baptist Church behind. She says, "No, I've had enough of this." And she goes. And as she goes, she will say openly, "I don't believe in anything that you've made me believe over all these years. I've changed my mind. I don't think that all these values that you've given me are actually true." She's really venomous when she leaves about going, "No, this has been a load of bullshit." I mean, Megan, at this point, she may as well have just had gay sex in the front garden of the Phelps family church. No, wait, hang on. She may as well have had gay sex wearing a soldier's uniform. Or having gay sex wearing a soldier's uniform, chanting "God loves fags." I mean, literally, that is that is literally what she was doing to them. She was just going, "Fuck you! I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I cannot do this." So she leaves. She leaves, and the world is a lonely, lonely place for her. Very lonely. She says that the days after leaving were paralysing. That she couldn't wait to be as far away from them as possible. But that she also felt an incredible loneliness. At every turn, everyone wanted a piece of Megan at this point. I mean, every TV show was coming after her. Every newspaper. Because, you know, she was you're going to be the next figurehead of this hateful organisation. and you've now left. She says, I was in an abyss. I was in the darkness. Along the way, she meets I think this is really interesting. She meets a Jewish man called David online. Now, it turns out they'd met actually a while before, because David had come to one of the protests that the Phelps family were holding. And at the time that they had met years before, Megan was holding a sign that said, God hates Jews. God. So David and Megan, they begin to interact online. They chat for a while. And now she's kind of in a bit of a no man's land. She doesn't know where to go. She's left the church, doesn't know where to be. And she reaches out to David and she says, Can you help me in any way? Can I come and stay with you? Is there any way that I can get some help from you? Because I've literally left this community behind and I don't know where to go and I don't know what to do. And he says, yeah, okay. I'm going to take you to the house of my rabbi. And she goes to the house of the rabbi. And she stays there for 3 days. They spend hours and hours talking about community, talking about birth, talking about what life means. What is religion? This rabbi lets Megan stay in the house for a week. He feeds her, gives her everything that she needs in her absolute moment of, I've left this church and I'm entirely broken and I need help. And this rabbi, Megan had protested 3 years before with a sign that said, your rabbi is a whore. And when she brought this up to him, he said, it's okay. I forgive that. I forgive that because now you understand. And she was starting to understand, Megan. She really was starting to break away properly from the Westminster Baptist Church and actually understand. Absolute difficulty of everything that she's been saying for all these years. She takes to social media and she starts to have conversations with people. And what's interesting is, and she talks about this quite openly in interviews, is that actually she wasn't met with as much hatred as she thought that she would be. She's not met with hatred, she's met with more people questioning her. They want to ask questions, you just want to have a conversation with her. Yeah, partly about what her life was in that church, but also her decision to leave. And what she says, and I think this is really, it's lovely to hear her talk about this, is that actually, when she goes, when she starts these interactions with people, she realises they're not necessarily coming at her with hatred. They're coming at her with questions. And that's a very different thing. It's a very, very different place to be. If someone's coming at you with a question, it's very different from someone coming at you with anger. So she starts to have actual good conversations with people, really detailed chats with people. People are ultimately, I suppose what I'm trying to say with that is, people surprise her because they're willing to listen. And that's the whole fucking problem with the Westboro Baptist Church, is that actually there's no listening, there's no conversation involved. It's just placards, hatred, hate speech, God hates facts, thank fuck for 9/11, all those things. It's just that all the time, that in your face. And actually what Megan has come out the other side of it and gone, actually, if you just take a minute and you listen to someone, then actually that's the difference. Now, I know that already. You know that already. We all know that. But if you grew up with your mum being Shirley and your granddad being Fred, then I think it's okay to learn that in later life. I think it's fine to learn that in later life. Megan doesn't speak to anyone in the church, and she doesn't speak to any of her family anymore. She gives her own speeches now about her time in Westboro, and her main drive now is to push 4 points that she's arrived at in the process of her living. Point number 1, don't assume bad intent. Don't assume that people are coming at you with a bad agenda. Number 2, ask questions. Get to the bottom of what it is that you think a person is asking you. Number 3, stay calm. She says that years of the Westboro Baptist Church taught her to be angry at first. First instinct, angry. And to always have a guard up. And that she's learned to stay calm. Number 4, make your argument. And she means this in a really good way, which is, don't just have hateful words like I was just talking about. Just don't have hateful words all the time. Be able to articulate yourself. If you're going to be hateful, have the backbone and the words and the everything to be able to back it up. Okay. Megan is now happily married with 2 young children and living miles away from the Westboro Baptist Church. Okay, that ends the chapter Daughter 2. Alright, so yes, well, we're getting towards the end now. It's a really sickening fact that the Westboro Baptist Church still continue to protest funerals, and that it just, the ones that make me really angry, the ones that really get to me are the school shooting ones. When lots of school students have been shot and they're there with their fucking protests saying, well, this is because God hates fat. Oh, fuck off. Fuck right off. Okay, well, Oh no. And so ends the story of the Westboro Baptist Church. Okay, I know. It's a big mind fuck, but I hope you enjoyed it. This episode, a lot of the research hits me hard. I'm sure it hits everyone hard. But I think it's one of those things you just have to look at it with distance. You just have to look at that situation with distance and realise the kind of madness that's going on there. But you know what? All of you in the world who keep coming out, and I love this, who keep coming out every time that they do a protest and kissing in front of them. So you women who keep coming out and having a big lesbian kiss right in front of them, or you guys who keep coming out and kissing and touching each other, I love it. I absolutely love that you feel strongly enough to do that. Because now they're just ridiculous, the Westboro Baptist Church. They're actually ridiculous. Like, they are, like, I mean, it is antics. It is, like, a total fucking spectacle now. But at the same time, as I hope I was able to tell you in this episode, there's people like Matthew Shepard's family and Matthew Snyder's family for whom it's not a spectacle. And for every one of those dead soldiers that they go and fucking put up their hateful words, they just want to be able to bury their family member. They just want to put their family member to rest. But those of you who go out there and undercut it, make it ridiculous, then good on you. Keep going. I'm just going to end with some interesting statistics from the Westboro Baptist Church page, their actual official page. I'm just going to let you hear some of these. They've got a numbers section on their front page of their website, and it says this: 6,952 soldiers that God has killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. 16 million people that God has killed in a flood. 343 people that God has cast into hell since He loaded this page. And at the bottom, there's a figure 0. And it says 0. 0 nanoseconds that the Westboro Baptist Church members lose over your opinions and feelings. This is me calling the Westboro Baptist Church. I just want to chat. Come on, pick up the phone. Oh, come on. Somebody pick the phone up. Shirley, are you there? Are you going to pick up the phone? Come on, Shirley. Come on. No. Oh, boring. Still ringing. Ah, come on! Pick up the phone! What the fuck? Shirley, come on! It's like 6 o'clock at night. Come on, pick up the phone. Is this the longest fucking ring fucking tone to a phone ever? Are you kidding me on cut off? No, I can't even leave a voicemail. I can't even leave a voicemail. Are you having a laugh? Well, I wanted a chat with Shirley, but it's not going to happen. She's not picking up the phone. Shirley's no answering to me tonight. I think she's working on another song tonight. She's, she's rewriting some lyrics somewhere. She's like, hardcore getting her, like, she's like, oh shit, yeah man, Drake's really big at the moment. She's like, oh god, better get rewriting some Drake. Oh, I'm raging. I really wanted a chat tonight. Well, I also just wanted to know what happens when you actually phone the Westboro Baptist Church, because the number is online, so you can phone them at time. That is ridiculous that like nobody picked that up, or I didn't even get a voicemail option, or an option 1, you're going to hell, option 2, you're a sinner. I didn't even get that. Do you know what I mean? I didn't even get like an option on this situation. Anyway, I'm gonna go because I feel like I've talked for a very long time now, and you're probably very bored of my voice in your ears. But I'll just end with saying thank you for listening, and if you want to join the Facebook group, you can. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm everywhere. Please get in touch. extarordinarystoriespodcast@gmail.com. Don't be a stranger, anybody. Get in touch with me. Okay? Thank you so much. Okay? Goodbye.
It didn't affect me really one way or the other. I would imagine from the look on his face, let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over. Let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over.